objections is really just a question. A lot of times when, us being salespeople, a question comes our way, our first thought is, oh my gosh, they're objecting or they're not, they don't agree with what we're saying. It's not really an objection. You should always look at it as it's just a question and they just need to get to understanding. So the best thing that you can do in that situation is dig deeper, right, and get to the root of why they're asking that question. And you don't want to say why, when they ask you a question, but by asking additional questions is how you get to learning more about, what motivated them to ask that question in the first place. So what are we have a list of questions too, but what are some of the questions that you guys are dealing with right now out there that seems to stop you from advancing someone to the next step of the sales process? Do you guys, anybody have?
If I were to sell my house, where am I going to go? And the interest rates are so high. I found that.
Yes, that's really good. So interest rates being high, and then that is a really big one where people say, I have a house to sell, but I'm afraid if I sell it, then, I don't know where I'm going to go to the next place. Hi, Leslie.
So sorry.
No worries. Okay, so that's a question. Let's put that one down as one of the questions. What's another question that people? Yeah.
They always say, I know the answer, but they always say, let's wait for the prices of the houses to go down, especially after the summer, so that we can buy. So they're waiting.
Okay, so timing the market. So when someone says the prices are so high, it's so competitive right now, I'd rather wait. So stalling it out. So that's somebody that's stalling out and trying to time the market. What's another question or kind of a stall that you guys have heard from people?
I'll put my house on the market when I find the next one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
That's on the first one.
Yeah. Yep. So that one, Jeff said, I'll put my house on the market when I find the next one. Okay. So that's similar to the whole one that Kim mentioned. Anything else? That's like 3 or 4. And you guys feel free to chime in on any questions that you guys are seeing as well. Any questions? So what we're asking, Leslie, is what are some of the questions that you're hearing that people are using to kind of stall and it's hard to get them to move to the next step in the sales process?
Right, on both the selling and
Yeah,
listing.
any.
Well, why don't we start with those 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can start with
Because
this
they
one.
might
Okay.
magnify out to
Yes.
some other things.
Okay, sounds good.
So let's do more general, like interest rates being high, or we could also do just trying to time the market, and start with that one.
Yeah, I'm happy to go here. Like, I feel like you need to dig of asking them questions of why are they even considering a move and getting to their core of the pain or the reward that they're sensing to move. And nobody can predict what it will happen, right? And it's like, well, have you heard the joke, when's the best time to buy real estate? 5 years ago, right? When's the next best time? Now, because it tends to appreciate. Sure, interest rates could go up or down, and yes, prices can go up and down. But where it's asking the questions. Well, how long do you want to be there? Are you only going to be there 3 years? Well, then yeah, that's pretty risky. But if this is a 10-year plus next home, why are you waiting another year? Why are you waiting for 6? Why not wait for the right property? And it's hard. Like you said, one of the questions is, well, I'll wait until I find my home, but inventory being low. So my whole thing is let's get to the why and get them more motivated and understanding, envisioning themselves where they're going, because then they're gonna, I tell people when I bought my last house, I probably overpaid by $40,000, but that was 12 years ago, and now look, right? And so I've paid off a lot of have equity from the payments. So you just need to educate them on the benefits versus focusing on the fear of what happens if prices go down? What happens with the interest rates? It's my monthly payment. Let's talk about where you're going to be. Okay, and why are you moving? Well, then we don't know those what ifs. And I think it's okay to say if you're only thinking 3 years, then maybe it's not the right time to buy for you. Maybe you shouldn't buy at all. Period. Let's not waste anybody's time.
I think what you just mentioned is you referencing back to when you bought. That's the key point. First, understanding their motivation, like she said, getting to their pain point of why they are even thinking about making the move, and then addressing that, but then telling a story to make it relatable. So if you just tell, but not show them, showing them is basically telling them a story, whether it be yourself or someone else that you recently worked with. And if you're a newer agent and you don't have your own story, then you're hearing stories from everybody. Share the stories that you're hearing, and just say like, recently, we oftentimes people, especially on teams or in groups and things like that, say like, we recently helped somebody where they were in the exact same situation. So I went through sales training when I first started 20-something years ago, and went through an objection handling class. And one of the key things that they say is you always have to address it with feel, felt, found. So those are the three things, write that down, but you don't want to say it in that order like that, because then it sounds very scripty and weird and not really personal. But you can say it in a way that you address first feel, which is acknowledging how they feel. So I totally understand how you feel. Others have felt the same way, but what they found was, and then you tell them. But you don't make it so obvious that every time you're like, feel, felt, found, feel, felt, found. But you can say, totally get it. That means I understand how you feel. Totally get it. I know, it's so hard right now. That's the feel, acknowledging their feelings about their trepidation or whatever it is that's going on. And then, and they don't want to feel like the only one. So felt is others have felt the same way. That's exactly a lot of buyers that we're working with right now exactly feel the same way that you're feeling. But you know what? There have been a few that basically stepped up and did this, and what they found was it was actually better that they bought. So in 2020, everybody was scared. 2020 was such a crazy time when the market was so good, January, February, March, and then all of a sudden March shut us down. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? So we had no idea what was gonna happen. But what happened was that people still needed places to live. People were uncomfortable. The ones that were in condos felt so crowded, and so they needed to get out. Next thing you know, May rolls around and people are coming out of the woodwork. June starts, and these people that came out early, even though when it was scary, they were the ones that have extreme equity right now. They went out and they did that, and then the appreciation happened. Nobody would have predicted that. So what we do know is in real estate tends to have appreciation. So back to what Megan was saying, is that over time, you're going to have appreciation. That's the trends that shows in our area. I think as a whole, for us, it's easier to overcome that objection because of our transient area. People come all the time for jobs. We sell to the same people. They come, they leave, they come, they go. So that makes it even a safer bet buying real estate in Northern Virginia.
And it's supply demand. And I tell people like, there's no more land, but guess what? People keep coming here. So like, even if there's a dip in the prices, which theoretically, honestly, there should have been, with the massive amounts of like increase of interest rates, theoretically, and like it should push prices down, but because there's so much demand here and there's such little inventory, it's keeping the prices up. So again, it goes back to the question of, their fear is like, what happens if it drops? Okay, well, are you planning on selling then? Like if it drops, it's probably be the next, let's say 5 years. Are you gonna be selling in 5 years? No, then like, why are you worried about it? Like if you're gonna hold it for another 10 years, like then they're like, okay, well then, I think that's a very, very important question. I just bought a house in this market, which I haven't really been sharing online, but it's painful to go from my 2.5%, but it's a lifestyle that I'm choosing for my family, for my kids' friends, and my kids don't have to share a bathroom anymore. So it's like it's filling some pleasure and also avoiding some pain is why we're moving. And I'm, hopefully I'll live a long time. We'll be there and build the equity again.
Yeah.
And I'm telling my own personal stories too. Like, for example, I've told people, you can't time the market. I'm a real estate agent, and guess what I did? I sold 3 investment properties right at the very beginning of COVID because I freaked out.
Oh, wow.
Nobody knew what COVID was going to do.
No.
Even real estate agents. It was a worldwide pandemic that nobody, could predict. And so right before, I freaked out and I was like, I'm selling them all. Of course I should, hold on to it. But that's what I say. I mean, you can't time the market. You can't predict the future. People may say, rates are going to drop, but they don't. They said they may go down this year, but then now it's like 2 more increases, right? So again, how long are you going to hold out? And then secondly, like I said, I tell them, I bought a second home also, and I got a 5171, an ARM basically. And, I decided this is the house that I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and just get it. And I'm just going to get the ARM because I think within 5 years or 7 years, the rates will go down. So even myself as a real estate agent, I'm taking that chance because I believe that the rates will go down. So if you kind of show them that I had the courage to do it, I have full confidence that the rates will go down. I think that kind of helps them understand too, that it's, you know, it's gonna be okay, you know?
Well, and one other thing is if they're buying and selling, like they're in the same market, so that reduces risk.
Yeah.
It's very hard to buy low and sell high, right? And so at least when you're doing it, if it's high, you're at least buying and selling high or buying or selling low, so you're reducing risk on one of the properties. So at least you're in the same market, whatever it is.
Yeah, and then for the interest rates, I feel like a lot of times it comes up with first-time home buyers. And so, you know, they're very particular, they're very set on a payment, and all that really impacts them. So one of the things that I mentioned to them is, again, painting the picture of pain. People take action when there's pain more than for pleasure. You know that if you do this, a lot of great things can happen. People are not gonna do that, but when they're in major pain is when they take action. So I like to paint the picture of pain more than just saying, well, look, this is the benefit you'll get. It's more about like, if you stay there, what's gonna happen? Okay, so right now, rent prices are up. It used to be, and again, the story educating them, it used to be that people will say, you know what, this is high prices, I don't want to deal with it right now, I'll just go rent a home. Well, that was sometimes a good option for them, but with rent prices now, they're actually really high. So I would ask them the question, what are you currently paying in rent? They're like, well, I'm paying $3,000. Oh wow, $3,000 a month, 3,000 times 12, that's $36,000 a year that you basically just lost. Versus if you go in, I know it's painful, you might feel like you're paying higher right now, but within a couple years, you've already made that up. And you have something to show for it. You sell, you might break even, but more likely in Northern Virginia, you're gonna gain and have equity and you're gonna make some money back. I mean, nobody can guarantee that, no one has a crystal ball, but that's the trends. If you look in our area, that's what it's been. But again, paying rent at $3,000, I know there's some convenience to it, but the reality is the rent prices tend to go up and you've already lost $36,000 at the end of the year. That's what we tell them.
I just did a
Just made
video.
somebody else wealthy.
Yep.
Yeah, I just did a video just like the other day where I was talking about, you know, Zillow, other sites, realtor.com, wherever, saying, you know, home prices go up 3.5% to 4% every year, except during COVID when it was going up like 10 to 15 or something crazy, but it goes up every year. So one of the objections actually in my video I was saying is one of my clients said, well, we're just gonna wait and rent another year or two because we want to have more buying power and so we can buy a higher priced home. And I basically said, that's the same house. Right now,
Yeah.
what you're looking at $550 that you think you're gonna get at $600, that's the same exact house, because if you're calculating a 4%, you know, appreciation, that's $22,000 the first year and $23,000 the next. So that $550 is now $600, but guess what? Scenario number one, you've, where you went ahead and purchased, now you have $50,000 equity, tax benefits as a homeowner. And scenario number two, you've got zero because you're renting. So just think about it that way. I think the rate in which people can save money is outshadowed by how much home appreciates in the area. So I have so many people who think like, oh, I'll just wait
Yeah.
and I'm gonna save more. I'm like, good luck.
Or save more to get the better home. So we
Right.
always talk about, this is the stepping stone. Rarely will you get your dream home the first round. It's a stepping stone. And with real estate, a lot of times people use it to build wealth. And then I bring it back to my story. So my first home I bought was in Roanoke. I got a beautiful, cute little bungalow, single family home for just me, 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, 3 levels. Awesome, right? For $123,000. Then I moved back to Northern Virginia and I was like, whoa, I can't get anything. So I go back to Northern Virginia, what do I get? Potentially for that price range, a condo. So the word on the street was, don't buy a condo. You don't want to buy a condo. Condos are bad. Interest rates, condo fees can go up and all these things. So it's very costly. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to weigh the pros and cons. So when I go back, when I moved back here, I rented for 6 months just to see. And I'm like, I want to get into another house. And I had just gotten my real estate license. And everybody in my real estate class was like, condos, yeah, don't buy condos. And that was basically the stigma, right? And of course, if you had all the money in the world and budget wasn't an issue, single family is the best way to go, right, for some people. But I was like, I just don't want to keep renting. And I was renting at Fairlington, so I was like, you know what, let me just keep my eyes open. And I helped another client buy a home in Arlington Village. And I was like, Arlington Village feels like a townhouse, even though it's, because what I had to dig and find out for myself, what was it that I was resisting on condo? Yes, I don't like condo fees, but also I didn't want to feel like an apartment. And so at Fairlington, I was in one of the units that was like a loft. So you walk in and you share a common area, and then you go up, and then there's some smells in the areas as you're walking up. I'm like, I don't like that. Okay, but if I found something else, that didn't have that felt like a home, single family or townhouse. Maybe that's better. I want my own front door. At Arlington Village is what I found. So I got one for $80,000 at the time. This is early 2000 something. Yeah, 80,000. Everybody's like, don't do it. Just wait a year or two, and then you could get like a real townhouse or a single family. And I'm like, you know what? I could use this as a stepping stone. I'm going backwards from a single family now to this condo that's a townhouse, but my goal is to rent it out. So I'll live there for a little bit to avoid paying rent. Then I'll rent it out when I get to the next step. That's what I did. And guess what? A few years later, so after I moved out, I moved to the Boston area, bought a single family home. I still kept it, rented it out, and then before the whole capital gains time was up, like living there 2 out of the 5 years, I sold it, and I sold it for $293,000. That was my 200. Lucky 200,000. Had I listened to everybody else about waiting to time it right, saving up to get something better and more perfect, I would have been priced out of the market, right? So that's the story that I share. And not only do I share that when I'm talking to people, I've now posted that publicly on social media. So if you guys have these stories, you should be posting that because it reinforces what you said. Because sometimes when you're sharing it, they don't believe you. You're like, yeah, you're just saying that right now because nope, I posted that months ago or a year ago or whatever. You just bring them back to that, and it's the history and the trends that you see in our market.
So your original question was like
Interest
how
rates.
interest rates and like how people are in pain of like nervous to buy. Is that right?
No, nervous to put their house on the market, because then they have to go, all right, so they're sitting on a house with 2 or 3% interest rate, because even
Yeah.
before the pandemic, the rates were a lot lower. So even if they want to sell their house, they don't want to give up their low interest rate to get a higher interest rate.
Do they want to hold it and keep it as an investment property with that low rate?
They're just, no. The ones that I talked, the question that I had, no, they want to move and go somewhere else, but they don't want to give up their low interest rate.
There was just a big article in the Wall Street Journal about that. You know, so many people in the country are at that 2.5%, 3%, and they want to move, they want to change, they have the pain points, but they have such fear because they're going to, 4% higher than what they're paying.
But what they also probably have is a lot of equity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like if they do sell their house, the question you should ask them, well, how much equity do you have?
Or to pay cash for their next one.
Or pay
No.
towards like paying
Yeah,
it down the
you're-
principal.
you're
How much do
gonna-
you have to
Yeah.
put down? Because if you put enough down, that interest payment will
Yeah.
balance out on your payments.
I would like present it as a positive rather than a negative. Exactly what she just said is, oh my gosh, well, right now you've only paying 2.75 or whatever the interest rate is, but the great news is first you ask them and they'll tell you like they have all this equity. You could take that $400,000 and apply it towards the new one, and so it's almost like the interest rate being lower, but it gets you into a better place if that's what they're looking for. Like again, understanding what their motivation is how you tie it
And
back.
do they just asking all the questions again, right? You gotta peel back that onion and like, what's their situation? How long are they gonna hold this? How much equity they have in their house to put it down to, get the monthly down? Do they have any potential big, income coming in on another purchase or a bonus in their company, whatever it is, that you can then recast their loan down again? So most consumers don't know about recasting loans. I talk to a lot of people about this, like, oh, I didn't even realize. So that's another thing of like, oh, well, I don't want to sell this house until I know I have somewhere to go, but then it's like the chicken or the egg, right? Do I want the money out of here, but I can't use it until I, sell it. But a lot of people don't know you can recast the loan and just recalculate the principal and the monthly. So that's another, like, asking all these questions. Do you have a specific client right now that you want to share in terms of what their situation is? And no, okay, just an overall question.
That I've gotten, yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
think is pretty common. So you were saying also the interest rates, but also where would they go if they sell the house? Was that all part of your question too? I got it all blanking it. Okay, so that's the other tough part right now is going back to the pain point. So I'll use an example of a family that basically was like, gosh, with the interest rates and this. So I will ask them, have you talked to a lender and find out if you have to sell in order to buy? And they'll say, well, no. Well, that's the first thing. You got to talk to the lender and see. And then let's say talk to the lender, and you should be directing that. Like, don't wait for them to do it. Just say, let's get on one of our, great lenders. I'll call them right now. Let's get on a conference call and let's do that. So you go on the call and you talk it through because you want to make sure you're asking the right questions to the lender. Lender goes asking them hypothetical. If they're willing to do all of the pre-approval, the lender goes, oh, they don't actually have to sell their home. Well, then let's focus now on you purchasing. Let's do that, and then we'll sell your home. And they're like, no, but I don't want to be stuck with 2 mortgages or whatever. Okay, so which one is more painful to you, having the mortgage or having to potentially not have found another home? Because I think this ties to somebody else's question about, like, where do I go if I, don't, if I sell my house and I don't have another place? Because when we sell your home, and we will sell it quickly, we'll usually get you multiple offers, and with multiple offers, we have leverage. We can try to get you a rent back. The rent back, usually maximum, the lender will allow us up to 60 days. So that's about 2 months. So as soon as you go under contract, we need to start actively looking for properties for you. But we could probably get you up to 60 months rent back. How does that make you feel? They're like, oh my God, that's amazing. If I have that, I'm great. Now you've already solved that problem. If they say, no, but what if I don't find it? Okay, what are some of the things that you're looking in your for in your home? If they're giving you a whole bunch of stuff that sounds like they're an easy buyer, like they're not hard and like really narrowed down where it's really difficult to find something, then they probably have options. If they're like very particular and like, I only want this neighborhood, I only want this or that, they're probably gonna have a hard time. So then they might be and then you would just have to tell them, like, that's gonna be tough because that's very specific. So maybe it's better for us to try to find you the house first before we put your house on the market, since you don't have to sell. But if all of a sudden the lender says they have to sell in order to buy, this is what happens more often than not. So this is I've had it happen so many times to my friends, and I say, look, I know it's better not to, but right now, you guys, you got 2 little kids, and newborn that basically was born. I know it's going to be painful for you guys to have to do this, but you have no choice. You're stuck in your small house. You are stuck in your small house just like that until you sell your house. So which one? Like right now, the market is hot. You should really, it's a seller's market. It's in time and opportunity for you to control it, and it's going to be pain, and we'll be in pain together. Pain for a month, 2 months, we'll be in pain together. We'll just do this, suffer it out, and then you're going to be really happy when you're into your new place that everybody has their space and you guys are not overcrowded. You guys
And
in?
as far as the money goes, you may not have a payment on your new house for 45 days.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there you've got that cushion there. You're only really still paying one
Yeah.
payment.
I also think you
And
have
you
to
have
get over the
time to
mental
pay that
hurdle
payment.
of like the extra costs. I think that's where it's like, oh man, I'm just gonna, like, I'm paying extra. Like, I shouldn't have to pay this because it was 2.5% a year and a half ago, but like,
Yeah.
this isn't what it is.
Yeah.
We don't know what it's gonna be, so like, why do you wanna move?
Mhm.
Like, like, do you have money elsewhere, right? Like, I think through COVID, people learned that they just want more quality of life,
Mhm.
right? Like, life is short. You should enjoy it.
Mhm.
And that's why people are moving, because they wanna increase the enjoyment in their life.
Yeah.
So it's like getting back to the root of that and just like, okay, well, I know it's painful, but like, you're gonna be in a better place, and maybe you have to sell some of your stock to like get it down to a price point on a monthly basis. But again, if you're holding it long term, it is what it is. You hopefully can refinance one day, but we
Yeah.
can't promise that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's also so many unique ways you can play around with payments. Like for instance, it's like getting with a loan officer who makes sense, because let's say they have a $50,000-$60,000 car like loan, but that's $1,000 a month. So instead of using $400,000 equity to put it in the home, like let's say you put $50,000 towards your car payment,
Yep.
get rid of that $1,000 per month.
Yep.
Because that's easier, and you can look at other debts. So there's so many unique ways you can play around with it. Don't always think about it's just the interest rate, buying down the rate, putting equity in the home. Like, I think there's a lot of unique ways to play around with like
And-
their overall
yeah.
payments.
And if you have a good resource for, lenders, or a combination of, they have programs now,
Mhm.
especially for new buyers. And like Jen said, she used an ARM. I mean, that's how she,
I did
that
an arm
controls,
too.
that controls the price for at least 5 years, and things are probably, we don't have any guarantees, but things are gonna change, most likely. And so at least you have that option, and the growth potential in those 5 years
Mhm.
that you're getting in Northern Virginia is gonna outweigh all that.
So
Just
there's
sitting.
something I always say, it's a phrase, I always say, jobs drive housing. So every time I say to somebody, your home will appreciate in this area, when have housing prices actually gone down in this area besides when we had the mortgage meltdown? It's gone up.
Yeah.
So jobs drive housing. When I say that in this area, so you're always gonna have people coming in, people never combat that, because it's true.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
there's only so much land. That's why it keeps appreciating. Even though interest rates are 7% now, there's still there's just still
Right? That's why
like
vertical
demand.
space
Yeah,
is
like
so
people
important.
are paying it. The people are paying it because there's still multiple contracts.
Yeah.
Well, we have shortage because no one wants to put their home on the market.
Right.
Exactly.
At 2 or 3% interest rate.
Well,
Right.
yeah, also
That's
find,
why we
yeah.
still have those multiple offers and, and
I mean,
think,
the population's growing too, and people are like moving it from everywhere.
With the high interest rates, as soon as they go lower, like, it's gonna become pandemic again, where it's
Yeah.
gonna go crazy, so prices are as low as they're going to be right now.
That's another thing that I think is really important to point out, which is that I tell them I have personally experienced a backlog of clients not buying last year, and I also experienced that this year. So guess what's gonna happen when the rates do go down?
An influx of
There's gonna be
buyers.
a flood of people competing against 10 people competing for one house.
Back to the same story.
When the rates go high or when the rates go low. And I basically say, that issue wouldn't be there. That wouldn't happen if there was good inventory, but with low inventory, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But again, even if it's, let's say, because people don't always believe that, and we don't know, let's be honest, like, we don't know if it's gonna dip or not, the pricing. Again, it's going back to, okay, well, let's talk about your next home, like, let's talk about how long you're gonna be there. If they understand they're gonna be there long-term, like, over 7 years, like, that's enough time to let a dip happen, and you've paid down some of your equity now, so I think it's making them understand, like, really educating them on but acknowledge it, yeah, it could, like, we don't know, like,
It
we
could
think it's
happen,
gonna
yeah.
continue, but it could dip, but what happens if it does? Let's talk through that. Are you, like, can you ride through it and stay in that property then longer than you maybe had anticipated? But at least you got to enjoy those years there, because you're moving for a reason, back to the reason.
And show them the math. I mean, like, really, what Jen was saying about, like, if it goes down and there's all this competition, the price is gonna be hard, right? It's gonna be escalating and all that. You're gonna have more competition. You might not be able to get in. And so really, it's gonna be price that's gonna be the issue, versus if you get in now, price is still tough, but with appreciation, it's going up. Interest rates is high, but when the interest rates go down while everybody's fighting, you refinance. Easy. Right? So make it seem as easy as that for them, because really it's that. And I always say to people, I don't have a crystal ball. I can only talk about trends. I've been in Northern Virginia for a long time, and I'm just talking about the trends. And I've been in the market here enough with multiple homes that I bought, not only for living, but investments. And this is really what's happened. And so show them the math and work through it with them. If things are going up like that, also with rent, do the math with them, the rent. Like when I actually write it down on paper and they look at it, they're like, I never really actually looked at it that way. So for most people, $3,000 rent is cheap. Most people that we talk to, they're paying over $5,000. That's a lot of money to throw away every year.
It's huge, and just show it, the final number for the year, say, this is how much money you just made your landlord.
Yep.
It could have been yours in equity, I mean, that's worked for me with first-time buyers a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, they're shocked, they don't even think about that.
Yeah, are there any, like, follow-up questions to this?
So I have a question. So those houses, like, they have a high equity and low interest rate, don't you give them like option, they can take a loan with their equity and keep their house and rent it, and take the equity and buy a new house?
Well, the equity would still be at the higher interest rate, whether it's their current home, because interest rates are what they are right now. So whether you're taking equity out now,
Yes,
on a loan, so it's
they
a-
can keep their house, so they can rent their house.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say like if they purchased it like 7 years ago, or like let's say 10 years ago, so they have 400 equity, right, let's say? So they can keep their house and rent it, and they can loan this 400, the equity.
They can take it, they can pull, I understand what you're
Up
saying.
to
She's
80%.
she's saying taking the equity, like a home equity line from one to pay to the other house. Yes, you can do that.
And then they keep their house.
Yes.
Yes, so don't you give this option like to people if they have really, they spend a long time? in
well, if
their-
their pain point is the interest rate, now you're doubling their interest. You have two,
Corrected.
If they want to, we don't normally offer that unless they say they were hoping to keep it.
I see.
Yeah, so what you don't wanna do, this is just again for sales when we're trying, you don't wanna confuse people when they're already confused. So understand what their pain points are and what they want. If they say that's their pain point, then yes, I would bring that up, but I would not volunteer that information, because what I'm also trying to do is I'm trying to create inventory. I want that listing, I wanna sell their house.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna offer that unless
and
they said they
you're
want
reducing
that.
risk
Yeah.
when you're selling their house and buying at the same
Yeah.
time. Again, like, that's a huge thing that you should be telling all your buyers and sellers. Like, if you're nervous about this, you're in the same market, you are reducing risk.
Yeah.
You cannot, it's so hard. Talk to any
Yeah.
financial advisor, any stockbroker trying to buy stock.
Yeah.
low and sell high,
Yeah.
it's impossible
So if
for
you're,
them
yeah,
too.
timing it is really hard. So what Megan had said earlier is if you're doing it at the same time, you're benefiting of when the market's hot, but you're also hurting on this part, but it kind of evens itself out, right? So that's why. But if they do one and not the other, we don't know, we can't predict that. But, you know, if they want to, that's one option to do in order for them to say, yeah, I can build wealth by keeping that. Here's a way to do it, and then you would bring that up.
But with taking equity out of your house, it can only be up to 80%.
Right.
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
But if the pain point we're talking about is the interest rates, then you're like,
Yeah, they will, there is someone else will pay their mortgage for the current house and they can keep the interest rate.
they keep the part that they have.
If you're trying to do like a cash out refi, rates are high right now. So that's the only drawback of trying to do a cash out refinance, even if
Yeah.
it's 300,000 in equity.
Yeah.
You're refining your low rate into a new rate, even if you're taking a
Yeah.
big chunk of money.
Good point.
I think the
Yeah.
other thing too is, even if you're taking money out equity-wise, that's another loan, so when it comes to buying another home, if you have to get a loan, it's gonna be a double whammy.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
So that's where like, when things get complicated like that, we just refer it out to the lender because they know the ins and outs, what they can run the numbers and what's acceptable versus
Yeah.
us that are just, hypothesizing or
Yeah.
guessing.
But again, only bring that up as an option if they say, you know, I want to keep my house and I want to keep it and buy another, then of course, those are alternatives that you can bring up. But most people in general can't do that or want to do that. They just want to get into another home and they just don't know how to get into another home, you know, with their current home.
I think you mentioned recast, and I bet you some people here don't know what recasting is. So could you go over that?
yeah. So recasting is, so when people need the money from their current house, or they want it, right, towards their next house. But let's say today a house pops up, it's perfect for them, they love it, but they haven't sold this one, but they really wanted the money out of it. Number one, can you purchase this one without selling it, without the money in it? Yes, great, that's easy. No, if it's no, then the second option, can you do a bridge loan? You can do a temporary loan on this property so you can close on this one. Third option is, if you can qualify to buy this one without having to do that, but you really wanted it to, like, you know, have a lower principal, you can take that chunk of money and recast the current loan that you are now in your new house, and it reduces the principal, and then it recalculates at the same interest rate and the same days left, and it's only like $300. So lenders don't tell you this because there's no money for them. They want you to refinance, right? There's a lot more money in refinancing. So let's say it's even like 5 years later, you decide, you know, I'm gonna sell my house, I'm gonna hold it, I'm gonna sell it, and I really wanna like buy down my principal here, but I don't wanna, like, you know, let's say you did a 15-year fixed, and like, man, I don't wanna lose my 15-year, you can always recast your principal, and so leaving the years left and the interest. Is there questions about
So
that?
like when you refinance, your
It's everything starts over.
Your
The
interest rate,
time,
yeah.
the interest rate, it's a whole new
interest
loan,
rate,
it's the
but
same
for
exact loan.
recasting, you don't change the interest rate, you're just dumping a
Yeah.
lump sum so that your principal goes down, therefore your payment goes down.
This
But
is
the
really
interest
important.
rate
So yeah,
is
it's
still
really,
the
so it's
same.
basically, it helps them with not having to refinance and paying all that extra cost, and it allows them to basically take that equity from one house to the other, ahead of time.
No,
And then-
not ahead of
right?
time, later.
Later, I mean, later,
Later.
sorry, later,
So
and
it's
then,
it's an option people should know about, and they'll like, wow, I didn't even know about that. Thank you for educating me. You clearly know what you're talking about. You know, like,
In January with my Alexandria client, we sold her condo in Arlington after she bought the Alexandria townhome. So the townhome was like $750. Her condo was worth $400. She only owed $100 on it, but she didn't want to move unless she found a place.
Yep.
And I said, we got her pre-approved, so she could easily afford both mortgages, because she had her condo for 15 years. And then she bought the new house, and then we sold her condo, and then she took the $300,000 in equity and put it towards the new loan and had it recast.
recasted.
But two
Yeah.
questions, is there a time limit for the recasting? And number two, does every lender approve it, or is it just?
That's a great question. That I don't know many people that have done it, so I don't know. I think it is like when you are advising them and who their lender is, like, will it be sold to like Wells Fargo or another, or are they going through like a bank and it'll stay there? I think that's a question you'd have to ask the lender and the bank to see if they. The other question I don't know, which I would like to find out, is could you do it twice? right? So like, let's say you sell your house and then you sell an investment property later, or you have a nice big sale and you wanna buy down your, could you recast twice? I don't know, actually.
Yeah,
I've been told that not every servicer does it.
Yeah.
I've been told that too,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking, because I don't think every lender allows it.
Right, so then you would just
have
wanna
to
say,
ask.
tell them that there's this option out there, but we will help you find a lender that will be able to do that. Not all of them do it, but just the fact that you bring it up and educate them that that's an
Yeah.
option makes you look good and that you are giving them some possible solutions.
I have two questions. First, recasting, do you mean you put the money towards the principal?
Towards the principal,
Principal,
correct.
interest, and a recalculation.
Because if you are paying a little extra principal every month, it doesn't change your loan at all, it just actually shortens it in time, right? This is actually keeping the exact same time, but you have a huge chunk of money or a big chunk of money, and that way it's gonna, because your monthly never changes ever unless you recast or refinance.
Yeah.
So the monthly payment changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
as a result
which is
of
what
the
people would want,
recasting.
yeah.
I thought recasting
Okay,
was only
second
for
question, as real estate agents, should we go that deep with finance with the client, or should we engage the lender in that?
You can intro it and just mention it, but say, you know what, let's get you on the line with a lender. I mean, you should definitely understand it so that you can speak to it to some degree, but I always bring in the lender, because again, you don't wanna make it sound like you're the expert on it and say one or two wrong things, or say that someone can do it and they really can't. So I would want to, at that point, bring in a lender on a conference call, so that while you're on the conference call, you're being educated as well, and let them take the lead and charge on that.
But I think that if you are in a situation where you really do want to recast, because you're thinking about buying that house, when you're researching lenders, there's your perfect opportunity
Yeah.
to ask, well, can we recast?
Yep.
And that way, if you get a yes, they would feel more comfortable moving forward.
I'm working with a client and we're trying, of course, with the lender to figure out how to decrease her monthly payment. And I suggested, how about the arm loan? And he said in this market, they don't do any more arm loans because they are almost the same.
Arms right now are not great
They're
again.
not great
Like,
right now.
it fluctuates, next month it
Yeah,
could be
it
good
does.
again.
Yeah, so that's why like a good mortgage lender, like our Miles came and talked to us on Tuesday, and nobody wants to do an arm right now because everybody knows that rates are gonna drop.
Mhm.
So like they don't know when, but rates are gonna come back down, so nobody wants
So
to
they
do
don't wanna pay
arms.
extra,
And there's like 2 or 3 credit unions that will do them and offer a good product. But yeah, your general lender, the arm rates are almost as bad.
It
as-
changes, like I bought my house in April and I got a 7-year arm at 5.25. And like, he locked me in that week when he knew, before he was even under contract, cause he knew it was gonna go up. He's like, I'm just locking Megan in.
yeah.
You know,
So
and
just
literally
keep an
3
eye
days
on
later,
it.
it was
Yeah.
up to 6%.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't think it's the same now, the arm loan and the interest.
Yeah.
No, right now the
Yeah.
arms are
Yeah.
great, yeah, so you have to know what the product is at the time, you have to know what the options are.
Yeah, yeah. Sean, did you have a question? I saw you were, or a comment?
So this is probably a ridiculous question, but are we recasting the house that we currently own, or are we recasting
The new house, the purchase.
And putting that equity in there and recasting the second? Which house are we?
It's the second, so when you
Yeah.
sell off the first one, now you have all this money that you
Right.
wished you had had for your down payment.
Okay,
So that's what
something-
everybody has in their head, oh, I want this for my down payment.
Yeah.
And so you're solving their problem by saying, you can still use that. You're just gonna push the principal down to where you really wanted it for the beginning, once we sell your house.
So they have
Once-
to buy the house, then they sell.
But they have to be able to
it.
qualify by carrying both
Yeah.
houses,
Got it.
right? So that's the trick.
So at the point when it's sold, then it's recasted or whatever, right? Yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like we talked a lot about interest rates and the time in the market, and I'm sure we can go like forever.
Yeah.
You wanna move, yes, thank you.
But do you guys have any other questions? It could be related to that you've been hearing or maybe recently have encountered that you'd like to bring up as well?
Was there another question that was already
We
taken on there?
got a lot of it, like even with the interest rates, there was one about trying to time the market, and I feel like that was intertwined with
Mhm.
that. One was, I don't wanna like sell my house with my 2.5% interest
Mhm,
rate,
mhm.
don't have anywhere to go, so I feel like we got a lot.
Yeah, so having nowhere to go is basically the
Yeah.
rent back, or, one other thing about I don't have anywhere to go, sometimes that we will say to people is like, again, if you find out that you have to sell no matter what, there are, short-term rentals out there, like Airbnbs, you know, people, are you in a remote work situation? If they're like, yes, well then, you know, go and enjoy yourself somewhere, and you live there. So we had clients that did that. We ended up selling, in, Camelot, and they did it early, and they were like, we're just gonna go, they didn't expect it to get so high. It went really high, and we got them the longest rent back they could get, but even then, they still needed to rent an Airbnb for about 45 days. And that's what they did, but it all worked out and they got exactly what they wanted, and then they were able to get to their new place that was kind of a newer construction situation, and so that gave them time. But the short-term rentals is another good option for people. And living in a different area if they can do remote work. That's what these guys did. They went to like the beach.
Do you give them idea of the area, or do you just give them this idea
Short-term rentals?
Yeah, and then they go and search. Do you give them?
No, yes, I just say to them like,
Resources, like you can go there and you check, or?
I don't actually look for the property for them. I just, for this one, because in talking to them, I said, how awesome would it be that basically by the time of the end of your rent back, that summer, your son is out of school. I would love to go on a long-term vacation to the beach. You guys could go, live at the beach. And so they went to Delaware. They got a house up in Delaware for 45 days, lived in Delaware. And then when it was done, they moved to their new home in Charlottesville. So I just said that. I was like, I just threw that out there because that's what I would want to do. And they're like, oh my God, great idea. Yeah, we could make that part of our summer vacation. So,
And let's talk about, like, there's low inventory, but guess what? There's inventory.
Yeah.
Right, so it's not like people aren't selling, there's just less options.
Yeah.
So are you working with an agent that's aggressive and also can find you off markets and know how to win when it's a competing situation? Like, we just won against 7 in McLean, and so I think you should be really focusing on that. There are people selling, there are inventories, just you have the agent that's working hard to find the other options and will help you win, and tell you what you need to hear in order to win, right? Because so what I told our sellers, like, their max, it was a 1,275. It went up to, they're like, we will not go over 1,4. We're like, okay. So I knew the agent really well, and she shared exactly what they had. So we were able to win it. And I was like, listen, I know it's 1,4 is your max, but they have a 1,4 too. You can win it now that we know exactly how you can win it. And guess what? If you guys don't do this, you're gonna have 6 other people that you're gonna be competing with next time, and now we have a new comp. So it's either now or the next one, right? So I think educating people on that early, and sometimes it takes a while, or losing a couple times to really believe you. But, like, there are options.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't skip those steps is basically is really important what she's saying, because sometimes they'll listen. In this case, they listen to her. Sometimes they don't. But
well, it took them twice of losing.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll be
like, thanks for telling us. Now we learned our lesson. So they have to self-discover and learn themselves sometimes, and then they'll do it without blaming you. Because really, at the end of the day, if you're just telling them and telling them and telling them, and they do it because you told them, if something bad happens, who are they going to blame? Of course you.
You also need to, when they do lose, you need to find out from that agent, like, hey, can you help me help my buyer? Like, what was it that you had? Like, what could we have done? Like, in bringing that back to them. And and I always talk about your future self with clients. Okay, let's put yourself, like, right now, we're now, 2 days later, you found out you lost. Like, how do you feel? Now you can go back and, like, would you have waived this, or would you have gone to here? Like, try to envision yourself as your future self and how you feel. If you're like, okay if you lost it, but you're thrilled if you want it, what's that number that you're willing to do, and the terms. And that way, okay, let's come back in time to today and make better choices for yourself.
Yeah.
Let's not have the regret conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's have it now.
Have it now.
And what is the regret?
Yeah.
What's the regret? And then, because now you still have the time to change it.
I love how you said that's gonna be the new comp. That's like
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
I gotta remember that.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
That's the new comp.
Yeah.
So true.
I actually tell a story of, especially my first time home buyers, I'm like, hey, let me tell you a story. I'm like, okay. So I have clients who, I tell them, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta waive certain things because, I have a good pulse on the market, but then they don't. And then they lose out. And then they get emotionally down because it's emotional. Then you do it again. And then they're like, okay, we won't be as conservative, we'll do a little more. And then so we put another offer, and of course I'm thinking, I don't know if it's gonna work, but let's try it. And then they lose it again. And then by the third time, they're like, whatever it takes. So I say, do you wanna be that person who gets it on the first try, or are you gonna be the person that gets it on the third? It's totally in your hands. I'm just letting you know the story that I see over and over again, so you pick how it's gonna be. Because I understand, because I understand some people, you tell them, like, don't put your hand in the socket, but they have to experience to know.
Yeah.
So, but I tell them the story, and I've had many people who from the get-go, let's do what you say.
Mhm.
And I'm like, wow. He was like, well, I remembered your story, and I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
So,
That's good. Painting that pain point and all
Yeah,
that
the pain
allows them
points.
to make the decision. At the end of the day, it's their decision, and we always mention to them, like, this, we're just giving you all of your options, and then you decide which direction you want to go. Like, you want to try it or risk it a few times, or do you want to just go in strong? And Summer from our team just did that exactly thing that you said, and they got it on their first try, because painting that pain point for them, and they're like, we don't want to deal with that, no. So they came in aggressive right from the start, so.
I always tell people, I'm your consultant, you're the decision maker.
yeah.
Like, every decision is yours to make. I will educate you. That way they don't blame me. They take accountability and they're well educated. So like, okay, this offer, I think 90% chance you'll get it. You know, this offer, it's like a 50-50. Like, where do you want to, are you okay with that? Then, okay, if you're okay that there's a 50% chance you'll lose it, don't blame me when you lose it, right?
It's their
Cool.
decision.
Can I ask a question for the listing agents in the room?
Sure.
Since I only work with buyers. I'm working with a buyer that has a listing agreement that's about to expire, and she does not want to renew it because she hasn't found the next home. So I'm working on the next home, but she also has fund criteria that makes it difficult for me to find her a house. If I'm the listing agent, like, how do you overcome that objection of, with that, facing that expiring listing agreement, you know, if I ever list homes, like, what's a conversation you could have that would get her to want to renew? You
Well, I would want to figure out, why is it not selling? Right, in this market, why is it not
Oh.
selling? There's a
No, no,
reason.
he's
Oh, so
saying-
I apologize,
no.
her home's not even actually on the market.
Oh.
But it was, we have listed paperwork, way back from February.
So
But
what's-
she's never actually put her home on the market yet.
Because she's waiting for a new home to buy.
Yeah.
Which happens, that's the way most of my clients want to do it. That's the way most people want to do it. They don't want to be under the gun to find something,
Yeah.
right? So financially, it sounds like she can buy something without having to sell that.
I think she needs to sell first.
Well, then that's a tough conversation you need to have. Like, are we not buying because you can't financially afford it? You don't say it that way, but like, you ask the questions like, okay, so let's talk about what you want to buy. Okay, let's talk about how what your lender's saying, like, what do you need? And then what do you need to make sure we get you in your home? Well, she's eventually going to tell you when you ask enough questions, I need to sell my house, right? So then it goes back to like, okay, well, why are we not putting your house on the market right now? Because you're handcuffing me. I can't help you buy a house if you don't have the funds and you can't financially qualify. So why are we looking at all these homes?
Yeah.
Can she do a bridge loan?
That I don't know yet.
You should add that.
Yeah, so
that's a
we
big
should
one.
definitely get with the lender and go through that. So how I would start that conversation, how long have you been working with her?
Well, February.
So it's been a long time. So what I would do is, all right, we've given a try this way. It's time to regroup. Let's regroup. Let's sit down and chat about it. And there's some new strategies that I want to try. I think that's really going to help you. We've seen it help some other people. So let's get the lender in the room or on the conference call, and we're going to all talk about this. And before you get the lender in the room, you already talked to the lender to kind of prep the lender. And then whatever the decision is, like, she has to sell in order to buy, then that's it. And then the good thing for her is, back to what I said earlier, is you're going to go through some pain because you're going to have to get the house ready and all that. You don't have another place to be yet, but we're going to do it. And the chances are, right now it's a seller's market, so you're going to get the terms and the things that you want. So we will control it in that way. And then, understand that there's a chance that you may not find the house during that time, and you might have to get a short-term rental or get something like that. But we can probably get you a rent back that will buy you some time. And then through that process, I tell people this a lot. It's kind of like adoption or something. Like when someone says, I'm trying to have kids and I can't have kids, the minute they adopt a kid, they get pregnant. Literally, like, that's happened to two of my friends. And so she was like, it was because I had too much pressure on this one thing, where she's like, when I let up the pressure on that, I was able to then, get these good vibes, whatever she said, like, coming their way. But I think that happens a lot with a lot of our clients, where we paint the picture of pain that they have to rent or not find something. And then all of a sudden they miraculously find something during that time, and it all works out.
But you should
So-
you should know that as her buyer agent. And you should be asking her the questions, because if you don't know, she probably doesn't know either. And I've also said, it's kind of like when you get a toothache. People that just don't want to know, they avoid it, right? And like, the more time that goes by, like the more painful it can get. But you need to know what you're working with here, right? You need to like understand what the pain is and like get into the nitty gritty. And a lot of lenders don't offer, what's it called? I just said it. A bridge loan.
Oh, bridge loan.
A lot of them don't, so you have to find one that maybe does, that can qualify her, so she can stay in her home. So again, it's like, why, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you
so
have
if she
to
has
understand,
sell,
like, working with her since February, she
Six
That's a,
knows,
that's a
yeah,
long time.
Yeah.
You
Well,
should
I
really.
mean, I've never actually taken her out to see anything.
Oh,
Oh. But
So is.
you need to get
is
her,
she-
that's
is she
another
truly-
habit that you need to start
is she
creating.
truly motivated?
Yeah,
That's the thing, it's like.
getting to the root of the
You know,
motivation.
So-
I ask her every other week if she wants to go see stuff, and she's like, no, I haven't seen anything. Hence the,
So you also need to tell her, let's just go see homes. You don't, it doesn't have to be like this, let me just pick out a couple homes, because I want to understand what you like and what you don't like. And sometimes when you see the wrong home, it helps you know what you do want, right? That you don't, the things that you don't like about a home helps you eliminate, and also will get her excited. So you just like, if,
Yeah.
but it might be a waste of your time too, if she's not very
You don't have to do
motivated.
it more than once, but you can get out there and at least get a feel for what she's liking or not
Right.
liking by her face and by her expressions
And
and stuff, so you know whether to just continue working with her.
I mean, I
What-
just need to
It's 6
revisit her
months.
why.
Yeah, that's
Why-
right.
Why did she reach out in
That's a
February in
long
the first
time.
place?
Yeah, and creating that urgency. So we say a lot on our team, like it's up to us to create that urgency, because people, when they're comfortable, they're just comfortable. Look, I know, because I'm in that situation with renovating my house. I'm fine. There's no major pain point until there's a major pain point, then I'll do it. But without it, I don't need to deal
Ask
with
her to do
it,
some
right?
homework
So,
too. Like, I
yeah.
would say, can you go, like, look at the past year of the sales and find me like 2 homes that you would have bought? I would love to see those. I would love to see what you would, you know? And then find her something similar. And it's, or, you know, again, it's not perfect for you, but I just wanna learn from you, like, what you really like. 'Cause every buyer's so different. And she might not wanna waste your time, and therefore she's not going out, because it's, like, some people are very respectful of our times, others are not. So I think it'd be the question of like, why don't you wanna see these homes after you pick out 2 for her? Like, let's just go see these 2, and if she says no, then it's like, do you not wanna buy? Do you think you're wasting my time? Are you not making time for it? You need to understand. Yeah.
She's done a lot to get her house ready, from what I've been
Okay, so she
told.
wants to move,
So,
Yeah.
cause that sucks.
And if you could show her how fast those homes sold, that she actually
Yeah.
liked, the photos or whatever, you know, the ones that she actually liked, they probably sold quickly. Hers will sell quickly too,
Yeah.
so you need to.
But when she, if and when that house that does come up, she's not gonna be ready to buy it, because she's not seen anything.
Exactly.
So like, you just tell her, like, once this house comes up, like, I don't feel like you're mentally prepared to go jump on it. And so we need to get you there. There's a couple steps of seeing homes, making sure it's what you like. So when you walk into that home, you've seen enough that you appreciate it.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I've had a few where I've spoken to someone, like, yeah, I'm not ready to sell my house unless you have a buyer or a cash buyer, let's put it that way. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna sell until I know someone's ready, who wants to buy my house.
Well, is it listed?
No, they know they wanna sell, but they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna sell until it's a cash buyer or a
Well,
buyer.
are they like, where's this buyer supposed to come from if we can't market it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, this is
Well,
where you
actually,
have
they're
the
saying-
conversation
yeah.
confidently, like, okay, so you wanna sell your home,
Yes.
but you want a buyer pulled out from where? Like, I'm not a magician.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the thing, is they have
Like,
that, I guess.
Let me
that-
do my job and market it and like, try to get a bunch of buyers. Like, why are you
Well-
just waiting for one that's gonna like knock on your door
Yeah.
and give you a lower price that you could probably sell for somebody that's
Yeah.
motivated that would pay you 50 grand more?
Yeah.
One thing that I've heard people do is that, you know how sometimes agents will go on the forums and say, hey, I have this particular house, you know, anyone have buyers out there who might be interested?
Yeah.
And then you'll have people saying yes, 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 here you go. Here's
So you
all
can
the
become
people.
his buyer agent. So like, you could, like, you know, he wants to sell his house, that's an off-market opportunity, right? So you could actually try to market it like to your own buyers or like other agents and have a referral fee. If he, like, you gotta figure out, why does he not wanna list it? That's a big question.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I mean, I haven't asked that kind of question, like deeper questions.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's because they don't want to go through the pain point. So you want to ask, for sure you want to ask it, but in the back of your mind know that we've gone through it before with people. And why is it that they don't? Because they're either private people, they don't want to go through the pain point, they don't want to go through rejection, all these different things. And what Megan was saying is true. First you can say, like Jen said, you can find these other people that want it. So yes, we do have some, but that's a limited pool. Why not let us market it to the max, and you can get a lot of options. And when you have a lot of options, you can control the outcome of the terms and all these other things. So if we are able to list it out there, you have people from all over the country that's looking at it versus now you're just talking about a few people that we know locally that might want your property. And the way to get the best terms is by putting out to the biggest pool of people.
But if they don't want to market it, and I've had a couple sellers like this, I say, let's do plan A and plan B. Let's go plan A, and we'll like try to do like a private sale. I know enough people, we've got enough buyers that can probably sell your house. We'll be for the top dollar. You'll never know, because there could have been somebody else that I didn't know about. But if it's really important to you to try to get you, not have it marketed, not have it like going through all the pain, we can start with plan A, but if it's not working, we're gonna go full force on the market. Can that work for you? If there's something why they don't wanna go on the market, you just gotta figure out what that is.
Yeah,
Point A or point B.
yeah.
But you start with plan A.
Start with asking, start
Yeah, so we're gonna,
first
like-
finding out. what
Yeah,
they-
and then like we can do a quiet sale, but you're handcuffing me. I can't get it to everybody because of rules. But I can get enough that we can probably get you a buyer. And if you're not worried about like making every last penny, you want more convenience, we'll do this. And if it's not working, then we'll shift to a regular on the market.
Yeah. And the key is
Options,
really
people love
just,
options.
don't offer options and solutions till you get to true understanding.
Yeah.
So first ask the right questions and get to true understanding before you
You can confuse
offer
them.
solutions. If not, you're confusing them, or it looks like you're just trying to throw something at the wall and hoping it sticks. And you lose credibility versus going in and really understanding them. And if they, feel like you understand and get them, that's the whole feel, felt, found. They're like, okay, you know what? I need someone like you on my side helping me because you really understand me.
And
So
I think
that's
agents
important.
sometimes feel uncomfortable asking these personal questions.
Mhm.
It's our job.
Yeah.
And when you say it confidently with like care and love, like I want to understand what your pain points in the situation, what you want, what your goals are, like help me know you, because every person is different why they're buying and selling. So if you come out at that angle, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable asking these tough questions like that you guys should be asking.